Hello and welcome into the PHNX D-Back studio, brought to you by Studio K here, presented by Circle K. My name is Derek Montilla. This man next to me, Jesse Friedman, occasionally known as your mayor of PHNX, this man, your vice mayor. And we are here in the brand new, beautiful Studio K, presented by our friends at Circle K. I built some of this stuff behind me with my own bare hands, so I'm very proud of that.
How did I know you were going to take credit?
I had to take credit
because
it's what I do. It's what I do. Of course, we thank you guys for being here, and we are very excited to be joined by Zac Gallen from the Arizona Diamondbacks here in a little bit. Had a great conversation with him in regards to a new charity initiative that he is currently a part of. But before we do that, we did want to recap the weekend series with the Philadelphia Phillies because things didn't quite go the Diamondbacks' way. Friday was very happy. Saturday, Sunday, things definitely took a turn for the worse when it came to the Diamondbacks. They dropped 2 out of 3, getting outscored 16-2 in the final 2 games of the series. Not great, Jesse. Not great.
It's amazing how much 2 games can really change up the vibes, right?
Yeah.
I think Diamondbacks fans were sort of on cloud 9 on Friday night. Big 5-4 win on national TV. The whole thing, kind of came down to the wire. D-backs were able to pull that game out. And then the rest of the weekend was just absolutely miserable for the Diamondbacks.
Including people that wanted to find Sunday's game on Roku. We tried to warn you to get ahead of it, and even I didn't heed my own advice, and I had problems finding it. My TV didn't even have Roku as an app, Jesse. I didn't know that was a thing. I thought it was just an app that you could go to. But, of course, that was probably a game I didn't want to watch, especially Saturday's game. That was definitely a game I didn't want to watch. Philadelphia definitely got their revenge against the Diamondbacks, especially after that first game, which felt very good. Things felt very good after game 1 for this team.
Yeah.
But, of course, over the weekend, the offense did not show up for the Diamondbacks. And honestly, I mean, the pitching didn't really show up in Saturday's game either.
Yeah, it kind of did remind me of the NLCS a little bit. Like kind of the beginning of it, right?
Yeah.
The Diamondbacks got outscored 15-3 in the first 2 games of the NLCS for people who don't remember. And they came back and won game 3 by 1 run at Chase Field. And of course, their fortunes sort of changed after that point. But yeah, this series kind of had a similar feel, but just in reverse. Where the D-backs got that 1-run win on the front end, and then they sort of got obliterated in the next. I mean, I guess Sunday's game was a 4-1 win. I shouldn't say 4-1 loss for the D-backs. I shouldn't say obliterated. But the reality, Derek, is that the Diamondbacks didn't have Zac Gallen, and they didn't have Merrill Kelly, and it's going to be tough to go against the Phillies team that is not completely healthy. They didn't have JT Realmuto for this series. He's out with a torn meniscus. Every team is dealing with something. But in terms of starting pitching, the Phillies are at full health at this point, whereas the Diamondbacks are missing 3 key guys in their starting rotation. So in a lot of ways, I think, maybe people won't be happy with this, but I think you can be sort of content maybe with salvaging a game in a really hostile environment.
Yeah, Connor says it right there. We didn't get swept. That's all that matters. And it's definitely something to build on in regards to that. It's better. I mean, obviously it's better than getting swept, but at least Sunday's game, it did feel like they were in it. The offense, once again, not great in this series for the Diamondbacks, and that includes the win. But that is because the Philadelphia Phillies have very, very good starting pitchers. I'm not sure if you've heard, but in fact, they do have some of the best starting pitchers in the National League. Yeah. Christopher Sanchez has a 2.67 ERA, and Zach Wheeler's 2.73 ERA. Ranked 2nd and 3rd in the National League in ERA, only behind one guy, Ranger Suarez, who is also on the Phillies.
Yeah, it's kind of ridiculous what the Phillies have going on right now. I mean, last season the Phillies were a great team, and they had Zach Wheeler and Aaron Nola as the 2 clear front runners in their starting rotation, and then it was sort of everyone else after that, right? Christopher Sanchez had some good moments for them last year. Ranger Suarez had some good moments for them last year, but now all of a sudden you're talking about Christopher Sanchez and Ranger Suarez going from being mid-rotation guys to being in the top 3 in the National League in ERA. or I guess literally number 1 and number 2. So it's sort of outrageous, how much better the Phillies have gotten this season, even though they didn't really do all that much in the offseason. They were pretty quiet and kind of just kept the team that they had. But yeah, again, the fact that the Diamondbacks didn't have, I mean, Tommy Henry right now is technically occupying Zac Gallen's spot in the rotation, and Slade Ciccone, I believe, is occupying Merrill Kelly's. So can you imagine what this series would have looked like, right? If after you get that win on Friday, you're looking at Zach Wheeler against Zac Gallen on Saturday, and then yesterday you're looking at Merrill Kelly against Christopher Sanchez. I don't actually like the Phillies are clearly the better team on paper right now. And even if the D-backs were at full health, I mean, the Phillies are playing so incredibly well right now. I don't think it's a given that the D-backs would be, D-backs would be on pace to win 107 games or whatever it is the Phillies are doing right now. But it would be a much more even series. And as we've been saying, it's just a matter for the D-backs of trying to hold serve as best they can until they get those guys back.
Well, Tommy Henry was sent down, right? And Brandon Hughes was called up. So as it stands right now, the Diamondbacks do not even have 5 starting pitchers for their starting rotation. Obviously, the plan there is for Zac Gallen to return by this upcoming weekend, and he will be a sight for sore eyes when it comes to the starting rotation, having another solidified starter in there versus, I guess, the inconsistency right now that you're getting out of some of these guys. Slade, obviously, at times has looked brilliant, and then at times has really struggled himself. Ryan Nelson, same thing, right? Ryan Nelson has had some good outings, but again, I feel a little bit better about Ryan Nelson potentially being here for a while, maybe. I mean, because the Diamondbacks look like they might need one of these guys to stick around until mid-August based on Merrill Kelly's assessment of when he expects to be back. So, again, it's just a matter of, the Diamondbacks can you use maybe having just one day where they really have to worry about, the starting pitcher's spot rather than right now 3 days. But that's at least, where they're at right now. And of course, right now, the Diamondbacks aren't in a terrible position. It would be better if they obviously won the series against the Phillies, but at least taking that one does alleviate some of the disappointment here about going into Philadelphia and not winning the series. Let's take a look at the numbers in the count presented by our friends at Desert Financial Credit Union.
I don't think people want to look at the numbers.
I don't care. We're going to do it. We're going to do it, and that's the way it's going to be. I don't want to look at these numbers either. Phillies outscored the Diamondbacks 20-7 in 3 games. They outhit the Diamondbacks 32-17. Runners in scoring position, Phillies were 8 for 33, Diamondbacks 4 for 15. ERA, not good. 2.50 for the Phillies, 6.39 starting pitching ERA for the Diamondbacks. Relief pitching ERA, 2.00 for the Phillies, 8.03 for the Diamondbacks. We knew the Phillies didn't really have a lot of weaknesses coming into the series. And in fact, the one weakness might have been maybe parts of their bullpen, but that wasn't the case during this series. Their bullpen was very, very good. And we know the Diamondbacks tend not to be very good against opposing bullpens. They tend to make the opposing bullpen look really good at times, and this was another one of those series.
Tucker Barnhart threw an inning in this series. So, we have to acknowledge that.
Burn these numbers, Damon. Just burn the numbers.
How about that runners in scoring position, though, boys?
Yeah,
let's talk about that. Let's get some positives going.
The D-backs had a 267 batting average with runners in scoring position compared to 242 for the Phillies.
Let's go!
Never mind the fact that the Phillies had 18 more opportunities with runners in scoring position. That's going to be just totally irrelevant for this conversation. But yeah, going back to Tucker Barnhart, which is really the fascinating
that
part
that
is the storyline of the weekend in my mind.
Absolutely.
He was out there throwing 41 miles an hour, Derek. A very different approach from what we saw Pavin Smith do just a couple of weeks ago.
Throws gas, and he has a 0.00 ERA. We know that.
For Pavin, the secret was throwing harder.
Yeah.
He was trying to just lob it up there, I think it was low 70s at first, and he just couldn't control it. And then, he ramps it up to 80, and suddenly he's just dotting corners. Tucker Barnhart, very different approach. He was, I think sticking in the 40s pretty much the whole time.
It's hard to throw 40, genuinely.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. It's hard to throw that slow and get it the 90 feet that it needs to go.
If I just threw a baseball regular, I'd throw it faster than 40 miles per hour. Yeah. That's not a difficult thing to do. You have to try to do that.
Yeah. Yeah, you put some spin on it. It's
little eephus ball.
Little eephus ball. Yeah, absolutely. Zach would be so proud.
Yeah.
Speaking of the series and the offense in the series, or I guess, I don't know, good things, bad things. A lot of bad things happened in this series. But, of course, one good thing was Lourdes Gurriel's performance in the 2 games he was a part of. So that is why Lourdes is our king snake for this series. He went 4 for 8 with a home run and an RBI from that home run. But, yeah, Lourdes has been – he's back on track. He's streaking now in the positive direction, which when you look at the difference in his numbers from the beginning of the season to that stretch where he really struggled to now, it's like night and day.
Yeah. Lourdes has really come around. He's hitting 342, 360, 534 in June.
Let's go.
Which is kind of flown under the radar. Somehow I feel like I've almost missed that. But yeah, just a whole lot of multi-hit games here over the last couple of weeks for Lourdes.
Yeah.
And we said this for a while, like when Lourdes was really scuffling up there, he was sort of the least of the concern, I think, just because he has this history of just being such an up and down player that when he is really struggling like that, you just kind of figure that he's going to turn it around eventually and rake for a few weeks and his numbers are going to come back up. And sure enough, that's basically what happened. Lourdes' numbers are still maybe not exactly where you would like them to be for the season, but they're definitely trending in that direction. I think his OPS is just over 700 at this point. So, yeah, he's doing the Lourdes thing, Derek. He's bouncing back for sure.
He's doing the Lourdes work, is what he's doing. He's doing the Lourdes work. All right. Well, speaking of other guys who are hot and continue to stay hot, Ketel Marte continues to stay hot in the All-Star voting. He has risen up to the number 1 spot for National League's second baseman. Let's take a look at where the voting lies because, hey, Ketel is where he should be. He should probably have a little bit bigger of a lead than this, especially considering that Luis Arraez, once again, is a DH and not actually a second baseman. But Ketel on top where he should be. You look at these numbers, and none of these other guys really are close to the production that Ketel has had on both sides of the ball this year.
Yeah, I think the gap has maybe even gotten bigger. Arraez batting average is down to 315 at this point. His OPS plus is 109 for the season. So it's getting to the point where I think the numbers, like the difference in the numbers, is so significant that Luis Arraez's name cred is still doing quite a bit for him, I think, but not in the way that I sort of expected. Honestly, Derek, I'll be honest here. I'm a little surprised. I figured that Luis Arraez's name was big enough to carry him farther in this race than where he sits currently. And obviously it's not over yet. This ends, I believe, this first phase ends on Thursday at 9 a.m. And then we go into the second phase at that point. Both of the top 2 vote getters will advance. So Ketel winning in this first round does not guarantee that he is a starter. There is another round that comes after this that lasts a few days. But yeah, I mean, it seems like people around the league are looking at the numbers and recognizing that Ketel Marte has been, frankly, a far better player than Luis Arraez this season. And yeah, the difference in their ballot count is not as big as it probably should be, but a big change in the right direction for sure.
You think Luis Arraez has name notoriety like that?
Yes.
I think he does because the chase to 400 last year was a pretty big narrative for a while.
He's a two-time.
That lasted for a while.
He's a 2-time batting champion.
But
in both the AL and the NL.
He's a twin and a Marlin though. Or I mean, like that's not exactly teams that are like national brands.
Yeah,
that's
true. You're right about that. But I think that's the thing is with Arraez, a lot of people actually do know him. Ketel Marte, I mean, I honestly hate to say this, but he sometimes gets confused for Starling Marte to this day. I mean, it's ridiculous.
He's
but
probably the most underrated player across baseball.
Yes, by far. He's one of those guys that, again, it's kind of like Paul Goldschmidt when he was here, right? You just know that if he played for a bigger franchise, a major market,
like the Cardinals.
I mean,
and you win an MVP.
Yeah, you know what I mean, right? That's kind of how that happens, right? And you just get noticed more. I mean, that was our big problem with Goldie, was that we felt like he deserved more recognition, and he was still winning awards and getting recognized for things consistently. It was just a matter of we knew that he was a generational player, and we didn't feel like he was getting the love that he deserved on a national level. And you could definitely say the same thing about Ketel.
Yeah.
And most likely it is for the same reason. I mean, I feel like Ketel's big moment on the big stage was last year during the playoffs when he had his hitting streak. And that's great, but it's still not, I guess, the notoriety that Arise had with his batting titles.
In reality, though, that is so much more important to the game and just like a better baseball player than anything Luis Arise is doing. Like, it's cool. Like, he hits singles. That's awesome. But like, who cares?
No, I agree with you 1,000%. 1,000%. You don't need to convince me none when it comes to this. But
I will say on Ketel real quick. We had the MVP conversation the other day, which I still think is a valid conversation to have given where Ketel's WAR numbers sit right now. But Ketel also has an 835 OPS, and I think that, as much as WAR has gained in popularity around the game, and I think people really respect that when they're casting their MVP ballot, at least a lot of people do, not everyone. But an 835 OPS, I just don't think is going to, no matter what the WAR numbers say, it feels like you've got to be sort of in like that, at least the 900 range in order to get serious consideration there. That's at least my speculation about how people would vote. Looking at NL MVP winners over the last 15 years or so, every single one of them has had an OPS of 939 or higher since 2007, when Jimmy Rollins was the NL MVP, which still, in retrospect, kind of blows my mind that Jimmy Rollins won an NL MVP. He had an 875 OPS that year and a 119 OPS plus. So his OPS was higher. His OPS plus is actually quite a bit lower than where Ketel sits right now. I think he's at 136. But yeah, just going over the last 15 years or so, based on how things have gone, I think Ketel is going to, regardless of where the WAR numbers are, he's going to have to get at least into the upper 800s range for me to really, really view him as a legitimate MVP candidate.
Well, I think he's at least getting there. And of course, this team having more success, getting their starting rotation back, all of that could help. I feel like Ketel does have a lot riding on his shoulders at times. I feel like he does kind of, wear the right now, wear the title of being the guy for this team, right?
Yeah.
We know a lot of other guys have contributed. We also know of everybody that's been struggling this year. Ketel has remained consistent, but it's a lot of pressure. And I think that obviously if he can get some help from his teammates offensively, get some of that good starting pitching back, maybe that'll alleviate some of that pressure and gives him a chance to be even better than what we're seeing this year. But again, it looks like Ketel will in fact be our candidate for the All-Star game this year. If we had more than one, remains to be seen, but it's looking a little less likely that we might see more than one Arizona Diamondback in the All-Star game besides him and Torrey.
I kind of think Ryan Thompson might be the Diamondbacks' best bet.
Let's go,
getting someone else in there. I mean, we talked about it before. Like, usually the relievers in each league are mostly closers. You'll see maybe one or two setup guys get in there for each league, and that's sort of what would have to happen there. But Thompson's numbers are in a place where I think he's at least worthy of that kind of consideration. I mean, you talk about an ERA of 1.16 at this stage in the season. That's 31 innings with 4 earned runs allowed, a 0.97 whip. He's been pitching the 8th inning. That's sort of been his spot for the Diamondbacks for quite a while at this point. There's a compelling case to be made there. I don't know if I see it with Christian Walker, frankly. He's just like kind of towing the line of like an 800 OPS, which I don't know is quite where it needs to be to get that consideration, despite what he does for you defensively. So yeah, I think it might be. I think Ryan Thompson might be the guy that would have to get in.
Well, and to contradict that, Michael McDermott in the chat says Ryan Thompson's biggest problem is he's not a closer. And yes, we kind of discussed that, where when you're not a closer, you're not a marquee closer, you're not a starting pitcher, it's pretty hard to get into the All-Star game. We know Joe Mantiply did that, but that's because he was the Diamondbacks' only representative that year, and that was more of a like, hey, he is the best player on this team that isn't very good right now. But anyway,
if Sewald had a 1.16 ERA, which he like basically does, but in 31 innings, in the number of innings that Ryan Thompson has, I think he would be a pretty obvious all-star. If you just like take what he's done so far this season and expand it over the course of a full season up to this point, I think that would be pretty clear. But yeah, the fact that Thompson is not a closer that has a pretty big impact for sure.
And more importantly, I just defended Paul Goldschmidt in that segment, which I would like to point out to anybody that thinks maybe in this room
he's overrated, right there.
Well, I'm just saying. Well, he might be overrated now. He wasn't overrated then. It's a whole other discussion for another day, and I'll upset you then when we have it. But of course, we do thank you guys so much for being here in the PHNX Sports YouTube channel. Of course, we have our very, very fun interview with Zac Gallen coming up here right now. But we did want to thank you guys for being here. If you haven't subscribed to the PHNX Sports YouTube channel yet, you're new to the channel, welcome in. Make sure you subscribe now. Sign up for notifications. That way you don't miss whenever our shows go live. Drop us a like. We always appreciate when you do that. If you're listening on the audio podcasting side, please make sure you're subscribed on your favorite audio podcasting app. Leave us a review. We appreciate when you do that. Those 5-star reviews mean the world to us. Big thank you to Desert Financial Credit Union for sponsoring this segment, for sponsoring our numbers for the count. Also, shout out to Mint Mobile. I love you, Ryan Reynolds. Just needed to put that back out there in the world. But of course, Ryan Reynolds knows how to offer you a cheap mobile plan. And if you haven't checked out what Mint Mobile has to offer, they are here to rescue you from your overpriced mobile plan. All of their plans come with high-speed data and unlimited talk and text delivered on the nation's largest 5G network. And right now, you can ditch your wireless plan for Mint Mobile's limited time deal and get 3 months of premium wireless service for just $15 a month, which I know it's not free but it feels kind of free. It feels close to free, as close to free as you can get with wireless service. To get this new customer offer and your new 3-month unlimited wireless plan for just $15 a month, go to mintmobile.com/Diamondbacks. That's mintmobile.com/Diamondbacks. Cut your wireless bill to $15 a month at mintmobile.com/Diamondbacks. $45 upfront payment required, equivalent to the $15 a month. New customers on a first 3-month plan only. Speed slower above 40 gigabytes on unlimited plan. Additional taxes, fees, and restrictions apply. See Mint Mobile for details. And of course, big shout out to Circle K. These guys right here, Studio K. They keep me supplied with snacks at all times, which is very important. If you know me, I get very grumpy when I don't have snacks. I mean, I get grumpy in the heat. I get grumpy when I don't have a Froster. Jesse knows he has to deal with me all the time being grumpy. But of course, right now, speaking of Frosters, you can get a Polar Pop or a Froster for just 79 cents through September 3rd at a Circle K near you. And you know they're near you. They're right around the corner from all of us at all times here in the Valley. You can also join their Inner Circle program for free by downloading the Circle K app today. Terms and conditions apply at participating locations. Visit CircleK.com for details. But when you do, you'll save 25 cents off per gallon on your first 5 fill-ups. You'll also save 3 cents off per gallon every day after that, or 5 cents per gallon if you become a premium Inner Circle member. You also get all sorts of wonderful offers in the app. Free snacks, free drinks, buy one, get one free, buy 2, get one free, all that kind of stuff. So make sure to join the Inner Circle. And a big shout out to Circle K for sponsoring our wonderful studio. And again, shout out to me for helping put it together with my bare hands. Saul Bookman, appreciate you for not being here to put it together with your bare hands.
Wow.
No, actually, I'm joking. Saul helped with all of this too. We all did it together. But I love this studio, and so I want to give a big shout out to Circle K. Also, big shout out to our friends at Shamrock Farms and our friend Zac Gallen for joining us today. We had a lovely talk with Zac Gallen. I'm not sure, Damon. Are we good on that?
I don't know why you're asking me live on air.
It's because, of course, we've had some issues today with technology and other things going on. But of course, Zac is returning here shortly, and obviously is a huge part of the starting rotation. We don't know, obviously how he's going to pitch, but it feels very much like Paul Sewald, where Zac returns to the starting rotation, everybody kind of settles in.
Yeah, I mean, there's just a pretty big difference, frankly, between Zac Gallen and some of the guys that the Diamondbacks are rolling with in the starting rotation. Yeah. And that's no offense to them or anything. I mean, they're young guys kind of trying to find their way. Zac Gallen is someone who gets Cy Young votes every year. Like, he's one of the best in the league and well established at that. So yeah, I mean, the question of like kind of how much does Gallen's return move the needle? It feels like it should be pretty big, but at the same time, he can't take 3 spots in the rotation. He can only take 1 spot in the rotation. So the D-backs are still going to have to hold serve. Even with him coming back hopefully this weekend, there's still going to be a period of probably a while. I think with Erod, it sounds like you're looking at middle to end of July potentially. That's kind of a rough estimate. And then with Merrill Kelly, based on what he said the other day, they're targeting mid-August for Merrill Kelly. I mean, he talked about wanting to be on the Tampa Boston road trip, which is middle end of August even. So that's a long time. Like, that's still about 2 months away from where we are right now.
Was he being cautious about that? Because it felt like at least all indications were pointing to him being back sooner than that. Like maybe the end of July or maybe the beginning of August. But of course, it sounds, obviously what he said, like it's going to be not quite to that soon. Yeah,
it's definitely the Diamondbacks are not always they don't always give you quite as many specifics as you might hope in these situations. Yeah. Torey will, he'll speak in kind of vague terms, and you can kind of understand why. Like, the reality is the Diamondbacks themselves don't know exactly when Merrill Kelly is going to return. So they want to be cautious with the way that they talk about it. But yeah, not that long ago, we were led to believe that Merrill Kelly could return, at some point middle to the end of July. And based on what he said the other day, that's pretty clearly not what they're shooting for right now. Merrill said that he's hoping to be on that road trip I mentioned earlier, which is, I think it starts on August 16th, something like that. So yeah, I don't know if this is a change that just happened in the last few days, or if this is the way it's been for a while and the Diamondbacks just didn't want to come out and say it in as clear terms as maybe we all would have liked them to. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, from what Merrill said the other day, that's the reality of the situation. You're not getting Merrill Kelly back by the All-Star break. And even from the beginning, Torey, when he was asked, will Merrill be back by the All-Star break, he was non-committal about that as well.
Carlos IP in the chat says the idea of Kelly not being back until we're in the home stretch of a possible playoff race sounds legitimately terrifying. And you're not wrong, Carlos. It does absolutely sound terrifying, especially considering that even with how good Zac Gallen has been, Merrill Kelly has been a stabilizing force for this team. He is the mainstay for a reason. There's just something about Merrill coming in and, again, adding that stability and just being that guy that you can count on. You know what you're going to get out of him as far as, a good night, a bad night, how much length you're going to get out of him. There's a lot of things there when it comes to Merrill Kelly that you just consistently know what you're going to get. And again, even with how good Zac Gallen was last year, we saw that Zac Gallen was, he had the home road splits. There were a couple of other things there that obviously ended up being, a little more inconsistent as far as his performances go than Merrill.
Yeah. I mean, I think Merrill Kelly has been the better pitcher of those two guys, dating back to the middle of last season. Gallen kind of seemed like he was in really good position to win the Cy Young Award. And then the way that he ended the season wasn't great, whereas Merrill Kelly seemed to sort of just improve as the season went along. But yeah, when Gallen comes back, he's still expecting to be one of the best in the league. And it's going to be a really big boost for this Diamondbacks team when it happens. He threw a sim game today, or is throwing a sim game today. We don't know exactly when it's happening, but if all goes well, it sounds like he'll be back this weekend for the Oakland series.
The one thing that we still don't know about is how Eduardo Rodriguez factors into this, when he is going to be back, and if honestly he's a real person. Jesse and I, once again, can confirm for you, we've seen him with our own eyes. He is not two children standing on each other's shoulders pretending to be an adult. He's a real Major League Baseball pitcher. And again, his impact still remains to be seen. We don't know what we're going to get out of Erod. We don't know, how effective he's going to be for this team, considering the amount of time he's missed. And I mean, that was kind of a question mark even in the Diamondbacks acquisition of him. So, there's still a lot of things that remain to be seen when it comes to this team. But it is an exciting time right now because the Diamondbacks aren't going to remain the team that we're watching now for too much longer. They are going to get a lot of weapons back. They are going to get Alec Thomas back. Most importantly, they're going to get those weapons back to the starting rotation. The most important weapon, though, is the guy that's joining us today. And of course, big shout out to Shamrock Farms. Zac Gallen is partnering with Shamrock Farms. They've teamed together on a cause directly that affects so many people here in the Valley to combat food insecurity in Arizona. Zac has more on that. And of course, they are calling on Diamondbacks fans to get involved. So here is our chat from earlier today with the Milkman. I guess our first question is, how are you feeling? I know we, just like so many other D-backs fans, are looking forward to seeing you back on the mound.
Yeah, feeling pretty solid so far, progressing pretty well. Got a sim game today, as I imagine you guys already know. So yeah, feeling pretty good so far. So we're heading in the right direction.
Perfect. Well, I know you guys, you and your partners at Shamrock Farms are making an exciting announcement today. Can you fill us in a little bit on that?
Yeah. So for me, it's just I've been here now 6 years. So just kind of starting to put down roots. Have a house here now. Spending about 11 months of the year here now, off season included and stuff like that. So just starting to feel a little bit more a part of the community, and just kind of feeling how the community has been behind me, has been behind us the last, couple years. I feel like I really wanted to get involved. And, so for me, it was partnering with Shamrock and St. Mary's Food Bank, and being able to help, kids that are food insecure, especially in these summer months, really, because it gets hot. Kids don't have school. They don't have school lunches to look forward to. So to be able to partner with St. Mary's and Shamrock is it's been unbelievable. Shamrock's donating 2,300 gallons of milk to the cause, and they've been even better than I expected when our partnership started. How many ever months ago it's been now. Me just getting involved, just felt like, because of my platform, I needed to get involved, and I wanted to get involved, and I wanted to be able to help and just be able to help in the community. And then Shamrock's like, hey, we want to get involved too. So I've been, truly humbled by them, wanting to help out.
For fans, Zac, who maybe want to get involved themselves, how can they make a donation or maybe volunteer some of their time?
Yeah, so there's two ways. You can go to mlb.com/dback/community, and then my charitable fund is under the player program page. So if you want to make a financial donation, I'd be thrilled and humbled, but at the same time, if you can't donate, you can also volunteer some of your time, and for that you can go to firstfoodbank.org. That's with St. Mary's. Both really unbelievable, organizations, St. Mary's and Shamrock. So for me, this partnership has been incredible, really.
Well, it's an elite partnership with the fact that you're the Milkman, which, by the way, is a nickname that I have been defending, and I will die on that hill for you no matter what. There will be no other Milkmen. There's just you as the Milkman. But I did want to ask you this.
That Colton Cowser has been referred to as the Milkman too. So I'm wondering, I guess I get it. It makes sense. But it is what it is.
He can have his own thing. He can be the Moo Man or whatever. But since you are the Milkman, I did have to ask, do you have a go-to cereal?
A go-to cereal? I haven't been on the cereal kick lately, but when I was, it was... See, when I eat a cereal, I mean one cereal. So like it's gone from Captain Crunch Berries. I had a Lucky Charm phase, and then I was going with Cinnamon Toast Crunch. But my favorite, no matter what, is Frosted Cheerios. Is my go-to.
I love that you did not. You didn't give me any healthy cereals, and I appreciate that. I love that.
I don't. That's the thing. I don't know that there's a healthy cereal.
There you go.
Like at that point, are you eating cereal? You might as well you're eating just dry or whatever, bland. So yeah, if you're eating cereal, you're eating unhealthy. You're eating something unhealthy.
Yeah, I guess you just have to embrace it's basically a dessert at that point. Zac, switching over to baseball here for a second. You guys, obviously this season maybe hasn't gone exactly how you would have drawn it up to this point in the season, but obviously with you getting close here, Eduardo and Merrill obviously getting somewhat close here, hopefully in the next month or two, it seems like you guys could be set up well for the second half of the season to really go on a nice run.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, obviously this season hasn't gone exactly how we planned, considering how last year went. But I think that just kind of speaks, I think for where we're at speaks to the culture in this organization, the depth in this organization. Obviously, nobody's expecting, you go to the World Series year before, and then, you make some signs and you have guys you hope, make the next step in terms of their career. And then, you're looking at how many ever guys on the IL. I don't know what the exact number was at one point in time, and key pieces. So that's always tough. But I think it just kind of speaks to just the culture that we've fostered in the clubhouse that we have, that like guys are able to hold the line of like, okay, we got to just keep doing our part. We don't need to do any more than what we were intended to do before. Maybe some guys got to step up just a little bit, but just to be able to hold the line until the reinforcements get back. You got to tip your cap to guys like that. I mean, you're talking about almost, or I think it was over 2 months of being under 500. And then, you grind your way back, to get through to 500, and then obviously lose a tough series in Philadelphia. But yeah, if you would have told us at the beginning of the year that, hey, we are going to miss this guy for this amount of time, I think a lot of people would take 2 games under 500 with, half the season left to play, and those guys looking to come back around, the All-Star break, if, maybe even longer, whatever it is. But yeah, I mean, I obviously it's not ideal, but I'm proud of the guys for the way that they've kind of, held the line.
Yeah, I was going to ask your thoughts on the young pitchers that have kind of had, such a weird season, being called upon, being sent down, being called back upon. It feels like a lot on them, and it feels like they've responded well, and they've helped keep this team right there around 500.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, that's the thing. I mean, you look at a guy like Slade. For instance, Slade gets called up when Merrill gets hurt, and he throws really well. And he's battling. He's great the first time through the order, and then he's 10 to battle, and he's grinding the second, third time through the order, and he has another couple good starts. They send him down. And then he has I think 2 good starts down there, and then they call him back up, and he's improved on what it was that got him sent down in the first place, and he's improved on the fly. I don't think people understand. I think they underestimate how hard it is to be able to improve things as drastic as that. And it's not even necessarily that's not even a physical change. That's just a mental change of being like, okay, I'm good the first time to do it, but what do I need to change mentally? Maybe something physically, maybe it's something pitch mix, maybe it's usage, whatever it is. How can I do that on the fly in the big leagues when I expected to be down in the minor leagues, being able to work on this thing? So that's a tip of the cap to Slade. And then you got a guy, same thing like in Nelly. Nelly's, changing his pitch mix, changing his usage, and he's learning that on the fly in the big leagues, trying to get big league hitters out. It's not easy. I mean, it's a very lonely place when you're out there and you're grinding and you're trying to figure things out at the big league level, because you're making mistakes and they're making you pay. And especially at a time when your team's counting on you to give them a solid start every 5th day to give them a chance to win. So yeah, those guys have stepped up tremendously. And then, Monty at the same time has, trying to round in the form. I mean, I think as monotonous as spring training is, and as much as, after like the 10th day, everyone's like, all right, let's get out of here. Let's start the real thing.
Right.
There's some value into having that spring training, seeing hitters every 5th day, going through the routine, building up that stamina, just kind of, the season stamina, not necessarily your workload and stuff like that. So yeah, so Monty's, coming out of that, and so we're rounding the shape here, and obviously the offense has been, has held us afloat really most of the time, the offense and the bullpen. So, yeah, it's been really good so far for what we've had to deal with.
One guy you guys did get back from injury recently is Geraldo Perdomo, and Jordan Montgomery. And I think it was Perdomo's first game back. Montgomery just couldn't stop talking about how great it was to have Domo back in the clubhouse, and how he talks to him a lot during his outings and encourages him and whatnot. Can you just speak to Perdomo and kind of his impact on you as a starting pitcher when you're out there?
Yeah, Domo's great. I mean, that's the thing. If the ball is hit within I don't even know, 10-foot radius of him from left to right, it's an out. So in terms of a physical, him just being out there and playing his position, he's getting to a lot of balls. And I think the thing about Domo is that it doesn't look very flashy as you would see other infielders, but he's making is that a lot of guys are not making, or even if he's not making the play and getting out of first, he's knocking the ball down and keeping the ball in the infield and potentially saving a run, or he's throwing the cutoff to the right base, a spot that saves a run or doesn't allow a guy to advance 90 feet. He's doing the small things that people that if you're not watching the game at a really granular level, you're not understanding that. So on the physical side, that's what Domo means to the team. And at the same time, at the bottom of the order, he tends to stretch out the lineup, at the 9 hole. He's like having another lead bottom of the order. And I think you guys have seen that now since he's been back the last, how many ever it's been, 2 weeks or whatever it is. He's always seemed up in a spot where you need a big hit or you need a leadoff runner on base or you need to get the guy over. And he always seems to come up at that spot. Now on the other side of it, the Domo side of it, the clubhouse side of it, he's great. I mean, I think he's the bridge between, because his English is pretty solid, he's a good bridge between the Latin guys and the English speaking guys, of being able to kind of talk, whether it's to Jordan Montgomery, who is a country boy from South Carolina, Virginia, where South, and you can talk to, Marte, and you can talk to Suarez, and you can talk to, Justin Martinez. He's able to kind of keep the heartbeat of the team. And I think that's something that doesn't necessarily get valued as much as, I think people understand it. I think people see that, but I think being in the clubhouse and being able to see it, you're like, okay, yeah, I get it. There's this kind of, I don't know the exact word for it, but there's just this kind of stability when he comes back. And it's like, everyone's like, all right, we got, this guy's like our heartbeat type of deal. And when your heartbeat comes back, it tends to do good things for you.
We recently discussed that they are going to be using the ABS challenge system in AAA instead of the ABS anyway. They're going full ABS challenge system. I wanted to see what your thoughts were on that and if you like that versus going with an automatic strike zone or automated strike zone, I should say.
I don't know. I've never used either one of them, so I wouldn't know. I wouldn't be able to speak from experience. I will say that it is, I don't know. I'm conflicted on that because you are taking the human element out in terms of the automated strike zone, but at the same time, there's some spots where some calls, go one way or the other, where it would be nice to get the right call in a big spot. And it's like, and being able to challenge, I think if I had to lean just from what I've talked to the guys that have played in AAA and have used both, I think the challenge system seems like the more ideal way to do it, just because we have challenges on video replay and stuff like that. So to have a full on automated zone, I think would be tough because I think there's going to be a lot of kinks, and I think there's still going to be kinks to work out with the challenge system, but that's only happening so many times throughout the night, when you're going, oh, I didn't like that pitch or that call, I guess, to say I'm going to challenge that, as opposed to 100 and some odd every night on each side that the automated zones in play. So yeah, I don't know. I'll be curious to see what MLB decides to do with something like that, but yeah, I don't know. It'll be interesting.
I have a bit of a crazy one here for you, Zach. If you could steal a pitch from one of your teammates, which pitch would you steal? So, Merrill Kelly's changeup, whatever comes to your mind, what would you say?
If I could steal a pitch, that's a good question.
I guess you already have a changeup, so taking Merrill's changeup probably wouldn't make any sense at all.
Now, good as Merrill's changeup is, I'm content with mine.
Yours is pretty good too.
I'm content. I need something that's like a difference maker. So my first thought was Justin Martinez's fastball.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. That feels like the right answer.
100. Do I get to have my command, or do
Yes.
I? Yes. It's not even close. So that was other than we have some other guys with some really good stuff, but that I think is the separate. If I threw 100 miles an hour, it'd be it would be such a separator. So, yeah, I think I'm taking that.
Wait, Zach, thank you so much, man. We appreciate you stopping by. Thank you to Shamrock Farms. And honestly, thank you for everything you're doing for the community. We really appreciate you being involved in programs like this.
Yeah, I appreciate it, guys. Thanks for having me.
All right.
Thanks, Zach.
Thanks, Zach.
Yeah.
He was absolutely outstanding. And of course, yes, the right answer is Justin Martinez. Maybe the sinker, maybe the splitter.
See, yeah. So I need to clarify with Zach later on. Does he mean the four seam or does he mean the two seam? Does he mean the sinker? Because the sinker has crazy life, Derek, as we've discussed, and is still 102 miles an hour.
Yeah,
the four seam is a little straight. He doesn't really throw the four seam that much anymore. I also am intrigued at what the Justin Martinez splitter would look like as part of Zac Gallen's arsenal. I wondered if he might go that direction with that question. But yeah.
Great stuff. And I don't mean to pick apart Zac Gallen's words there because I appreciate him being here. But one thing that I did secretly get excited about, and I don't know if anybody else picked this up, was when he started talking about, planting roots and being here in Arizona. And I mean, obviously, none of that really impacts where Zac Gallen ultimately ends up after his time or his current contract is up. But I mean, again, he is a guy that I think all Diamondbacks fans want to keep here in the Valley for a long time.
Yeah.
And it's excellent that he is, doing things like this to help out the community. This is a bad time of the year, by the way. And I mean, I don't think we do discuss enough how many children here in the state do rely on like state funded like lunch programs and such for them to get the nutrition that they need. And during the summer, that's very hard to come by. So appreciate Zach and Shamrock Farms for leading the way on that initiative. Also appreciate Desert Financial Credit Union, again, for sponsoring the count. For more than 84 years, Desert Financial has been Arizona's largest, most trusted local credit union. They got me started on my home ownership journey, and hopefully they can get you started as well. They can hopefully help you reach your financial dreams and goals. You can look to Desert Financial as trusted financial experts for checking and savings accounts, mortgages, loans, credit cards, investment options, and so much more. When you open a free checking account online, you can get $200 in bonuses. Get started by visiting desertfinancial.com/200 right now. Also, we got some baseball games coming up here in Arizona, and I know sometimes with it being as hot as it is outside, you might not want to leave your home, but you also might, much like myself, get bored being in your house like I was this weekend. So, of course, if you do decide last minute to go see a baseball game or any other sporting event, concerts, comedy shows, all sorts of events, you can look to Game Time for that, and you can save up to 60% off by buying tickets last minute with Game Time. You can save even more with exclusive in-app deals, as well as if you aren't really picky about your seat, you can let Game Time choose your seat for you in a certain section, and you might save even more money on your ticket. You can get a panoramic view of what your view is going to be like from your seat. You can also rest assured that Game Time is going to give you the lowest price guaranteed, or Game Time will credit you 110% of the difference. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the app right now, create an account, and use code PHNX for $20 off your first purchase. Terms do apply. Again, create an account, redeem code PHNX for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed.
Join me, Bo, Johnny, for the 999 challenge on Saturday using Game Time, section 111.
That's right. And that might be the next time Zac Gallen starts. No? Am I being too ambitious about that? When would that line up?
So Gallen would line up for Tommy Henry's spot. So he was on Saturday. So there is the Sunday game. Then you've got Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. So on paper, he would maybe start Friday.
Okay.
But no, that's not how math works, Derek.
No.
Because he's throwing a sim game today. I don't think they want to put Zac Gallen on 3 days rest for his first start back. That doesn't. I'm no medical expert. That doesn't seem like a great way to end your rehab.
You also used to teach math though, so I mean, I'm just saying there is some there's some failure there. There's a little bit of failure there.
Yeah, I think Saturday would be. That's the day that I sort of have in my head right now.
999 challenge on Zac Gallen.
Is that a good thing though? Because that means less time per inning. Because Zac Gallen is just going to be lighting up the A's.
You might want a bullpen start potentially for that kind of.
Can someone fill me in on what the 999 challenge is?
So you drink over the course. One of the 9s is 9 innings.
Okay.
One of the 9 is hot dogs, and one of the 9 is beer. So you have to drink a hot dog and a beer, or drink a beer and eat a hot dog. That's the way those things work per inning.
Okay.
Right. Which is fine through the first 3 innings.
So you have to average one per inning.
There is no averaging, Johnny Venerable.
Yeah, Johnny
has to finish it by the end of the inning.
Johnny
That's
keeps
essentially
trying to
what the challenge
bend
is.
the rules. He keeps trying to be like, let's make it a cumulative thing where it's about how many I can get in an entire game. And it's like, no, you're out when you stop eating a hot dog and a beer in that inning. That's when you're done.
That's when you're out.
You can keep
when
going
you did
for
not
fun.
Go over to the next. Yeah, that's when you officially are done.
Johnny's about to get 3 or 4. I think I'm going to get 5, 6. And I think Bo is going to come pretty close to completing it.
Okay, Bo one time tried to challenge me in eating churro dogs, and you
talked about this on the show the other day.
You can ask Bo how that went for Bo.
He talked about it on the show. He said that Derek put 3 down in about a span of like 10 minutes.
Less than 10 minutes, correct.
You ingested that much sugar in the span of 5 to 10 minutes?
3 churro dogs in less than 10 minutes. There's a video of it on my Instagram.
Are these like the XL ones?
These are the no, they're churro dogs.
They're just the
There's no XL churro.
They're pretty big.
It's a regular churro dog.
They're like a foot long.
Yeah, it's a churro inside of a donut from Bosa with frozen yogurt on top. And
how did you feel after that, Derek?
Terrible. Awful.
Johnny tried to
I think me and Bo both went to the bathroom and were feeling it basically.
Just hanging out in there, basically.
Just hanging out. Just 2 dudes hanging out.
You and Johnny, or apparently Johnny was like trying to switch a hot dog over for a churro dog, or like a cup. He was like, how many does that count as?
That's a bad idea. That's a bad idea.
I was trying to let it happen. Bo wouldn't let it happen.
It's a terrible idea.
I was like, I'll count it as 2.
No.
That's fine with me.
Yeah, it's not
5
2.
times as many calories.
Correct. And it's probably about one of those. Yeah, it's probably about 5 times the amount of food. But
so are you participating in this?
No.
Okay.
I value my own health far too much to participate in the 999 challenge. But I might go to witness it because that sounds very.
It'd be kind of fun if you did. Get involved.
Well, maybe we'll see. Because you know what, I am part of the Hold the Line crew, as are so many of our diehards. Because I saw how many of them lost their minds. Trust me, I also lost my mind during that interview when he said hold the line, not once but twice. So we hold the line in this house, of course. We thank you guys for being diehards. Those of you that are diehards, you identify yourself by yelling hold the line in the comments. But if you're not a diehard yet, make sure to grab that diehard membership right now. Not only do you get a wonderful welcome package that includes a free t-shirt from the PHNXlocker.com and your diehard membership card, you also get access to all of our premium written content. You get entrance to the Discord lounge, where we are always creating additional extra special content just for you diehards, as well as discounts on all of our events. So make sure to join us today. Well, of course, we had a lot of content in this episode. We've done a lot.
Yeah,
We've talked a lot.
We're not done yet.
We're not
Derek.
even done yet. You know why, Jesse? Because today is Monday, Damon. And you know what we do on Mondays. Of course, you know every year is our year. You know every month on this show is Pride Month. You know every week on this show is Shark Week. Every day on this show, of course, is Earth Day because we recycle. But on Mondays, we go to the mailbag. Damon, let's go.
Mailbox. Always something interesting in my mailbox. I try to get to everything in my mailbox. And then once in a while, there's a letter that makes me go, wow, wow, my mailbox. Always.
All right, what do we got? First question.
First question comes from Travis Moore, of course. Our Iron Man streak continues, and he says, a new Iron Man streak, actually. But he says, has this season made an impact thus far on us re-signing said Milkman?
That's a great question. I don't know. I mean, I really don't know how this season would impact Zac Gallen. I would say in the grand scheme of things, his value isn't extremely high right now, right? I mean, well, I'm just saying it's not like it was last year when he was literally in the middle of a Cy Young race, right? I mean, Zac Gallen has had injuries and things like that. So from the perspective of, you know, this season impacting it in a negative way, I don't believe this season has impacted his chances of staying here at all. His chances are probably unchanged in regards to staying here, right? But in the grand scheme of things,
you heard those comments about planting roots.
That's,
Derek. You were just talking about that.
Well, I mean, you know, he says things like that, and of course, I don't want to take too much away from that. Obviously, I just think that, you know, there is something about Zac Gallen's time here. I feel like the minute he arrived, he was already in the middle of, or he was beginning this historic streak that he ended up completing and be holding now the most starts for a Major League Baseball player with 3 earned runs or less allowed, in each start, right? But I felt like the minute that he came here, he was welcomed. He was immediately like seen as the future of this team, and I think, for all intents and purposes, he has enjoyed his time here.
I agree. I don't think, some players might just go on the record saying like, oh yeah, I'd love to stick around. And it's, kind of a canned answer, just sort of what they're obligated to say. I don't think that's the case with Zac Gallen. I think he genuinely does enjoy pitching for the Diamondbacks and being here in Arizona. The story that he wrote in the Players Tribune over the offseason, that's not something he had to do. Like that was him sort of going out of his way to really express how much he appreciates this fan base and enjoys being here and being part of this organization. So I do think that's real, but I also think it's real that Zac Gallen, like anyone, probably is not going to take a massive discount in order to stay with his current team. And that's where it goes to the Diamondbacks, right? In terms of what kind of investment are they willing to make? Ken Kendrick, after the Diamondbacks signed Eduardo Rodriguez, after he signed Jordan Montgomery, he talked about the lengths of contracts and how the Diamondbacks have not necessarily been in great position when they've signed guys to extended contracts in the past. And Zac Gallen is going to have to be an extended contract. Aaron Nola just signed for 7 years with the Phillies. You're probably looking at about a 7-year deal. Are the Diamondbacks willing to go above and beyond what they've allowed themselves to do with other guys in order to bring back someone like Gallen? I don't have the answer to that right now.
All right, what else we got there, Damon?
Next question comes from Brian Bobbitt, and he says, Brighton Bobbitt, and he says, with the injuries and reports that Merrill may not be back until mid-August, could the D-backs look at cheaper starting pitcher at the trade deadline to try and fill the void?
It would be for a very short amount of time, and of course we know that those moves don't get made until the trade deadline, right, Jesse? So we're talking about August 1st getting that new pitcher. With Merrill being so close, I can't imagine that they would make that move. However, I wouldn't be surprised to see them make some sort of move in regards to pitching in general, and it could potentially be somebody that I don't know could help out with the starting pitching for a short gap. I'm not sure. I see it as still being a situation where the Diamondbacks are going to be looking for relief pitching over starting pitching. I still feel like the Diamondbacks are confident in what they have in starting pitching in a starting rotation. It's just, can they make it that long? Can they make it to the point where Merrill Kelly comes back and still be part in the race for a wild card spot?
If the Diamondbacks, if July 30th rolls around and Erod is back and Gallen is back and Merrill Kelly is, about to head down to Reno on a rehab assignment or something like that, it would feel pretty silly at that point to go out and pay a hefty price, what I'm sure would be a hefty price, to acquire a big name starting pitcher at the trade deadline. It wouldn't be a good use of assets in my mind. However, could the Diamondbacks maybe get like a swingman type, sort of as is being described here, someone who could make spot starts for you, but could also, maybe serve a long man role in the bullpen or something along those lines, just to give the Diamondbacks a little bit more depth. I think something like that could make sense. It's just going to depend on what are the dynamics of the injury situation come July 30th. Is Erod back? Is Gallen pitching the way that you expected him to? Is Erod looking like the pitcher that he was last season? There's a lot of variables that go into that.
All right. What else we got there, Damon?
Next question comes from the basketball and football guy. That's pretty cool.
Pick a lane. You're here. You're the basketball and football guy, and you're asking a baseball question?
That's true.
That doesn't seem.
That is kind of true.
I think we have to skip this question. We need this man to.
Well, first off,
woman to fit, maybe change their allegiances a little bit. I don't know.
You're now the Diamondbacks guy. A6 is what you are. That's what your name.
First off, he asks about someone that doesn't even exist in Eduardo Rodriguez. So he says, when Eduardo Rodriguez and Zac Gallen come back, whose spots are they going to take in the rotation?
Who?
That's the funny part about the first one. Yeah,
no, it's totally great. I think we kind of discussed it earlier, but obviously the Diamondbacks right now have an open spot in the rotation with sending Tommy Henry down. So that's Zac Gallen's, I imagine, when he is ready. It just depends on what the Diamondbacks are going to do. Should he not be ready when that spot in the rotation comes up next, right?
Yeah.
Then you also have Erod, who, again, is probably going to take Slade's spot. That feels like maybe the most obvious answer. But who knows how Slade and Ryan Nelson are both pitching by the time that comes around.
Yeah, I think I agree with that. Just given, the D-backs sort of use seniority, the guys who have kind of been around for the longest, that's something that they often use when making these kinds of decisions. And I think the numbers would probably agree with that as well. Slade has been very good at times, shown flashes here and there. But I think Ryan Nelson has at least at this point, shown himself to be the more reliable starting pitcher. Has he been great? No, but can he give you about 5 innings each time out and an ERA around 5, keep you in some games, maybe some rough ones along the way. But if that's your number 5 starter, then you can roll with that. Slade at this point seems to be a little bit more of a work in progress. It's still, seems to be a trend where the D-backs trust him early and then they don't really trust him as much the second and third time around. And you can understand why. So that would be my guess as of right now, that Ryan Nelson would be the guy who'd be most likely to stick around. But certainly a lot could change between now and when Erod is ready to come back.
Slade's spot cannot be taken by someone who doesn't exist, says Carlos. Yes. I don't know what evidence to show you to prove that Eduardo Rodriguez exists, but I'm starting to doubt myself. So I will say that, yes, Slade, the idea there could be maybe that Slade doesn't even get sent down. Maybe he becomes part of the bullpen at that point because of the way he has been so effective going through, the starting, lineup one time. I don't know what the plan is there, but also very much makes sense for him to get sent down and to stay stretched out just for, starting pitching depth. With the way the season has gone, you never know when Slade would be called upon again to come up and fill somebody else's role. So what else we got there, Damon?
Next question comes from Zane Makachek. What are we thinking there?
Yeah, Machakik, chick. I don't know. I'm going to say Makachik. Machasek. Yeah,
that's what I'm going. Zane Machasek.
Yeah, that's your new name. Whether you pronounce it that way or not, that's how
and he goes, do you think we could use Pavin Smith as a trade piece? He's raking in AAA, but we don't have much use for him on the 40-man.
Oh, man, yeah. I hate the idea of that, but Pavin is absolutely raking in AAA. And honestly, he's even been raking at times for this Diamondbacks team. His value could be very, very high when the trade deadline comes around. I'm sure his name is going to be floated out there. I'm sure we'll get questions about Jake McCarthy, especially with the way that Jake has been playing as of late. Jake's value probably has never been higher than it is here approaching the trade deadline. But that also means his value's never been higher to the Diamondbacks. As much as sometimes you want to look at a guy as a trade piece, you also have to look at them and what they're able to do for your team. Pavin might be the same way. Pavin's versatility and the fact that he kind of has been so capable of adapting both to being called up and sent down so often and still not really playing very often at a major league level and still being able to contribute when he's called upon has been impressive. And I think that Pavin might just continue to get better and could be one of those guys the Diamondbacks regret trading away. I very much could see him being a trade piece, though, when the trade deadline comes around.
I think when Pavin was up this year and hitting pretty well, I don't think it was a fluke. Like, I don't think it was him getting super lucky. Like, Pavin legitimately hit well. He was doing more damage than we've seen him typically do in the past. As far as his trade value is concerned, I see why people would wonder about that because of the numbers that he put up. And as you said, the fact that the Diamondbacks don't necessarily have a clear role for him right now, especially once Alek Thomas comes back. But I still don't think that if you're a contending team right now and you're looking to bolster your lineup, is Pavin Smith is that the first phone call you're going to make? Probably not. Yeah. There's not much of a track record there. There's a little bit of ceiling that you could tap into. He's a young guy who's certainly affordable. Teams might be kind of intrigued at what he could become, but I don't think he's someone that you're going to get a whole lot for at the trade deadline, just given that the track record there is so limited.
Yeah, I would agree with that, and that would be the problem there. All right, Damon, we got time for one more question.
Yes.
Can you get us one more out of the mailbag?
Final question comes from friend of the program,
Our boy!
Charles Woodall Pike, and he says, besides Grimace, which fast food mascot would you want to throw out a first pitch for the D-backs?
I don't mean to take his question and adapt it into something else, but I feel like we should dive deeper into this. I mean, there are so many fast food mascots we could have throw out a first pitch at a game, but who would we have in our starting lineup only comprised?
You want to do a whole lineup of fast food?
It's nine mascots, Jesse. We just have to name 9 mascots. I think we can do that, especially with my vast knowledge of the 80s.
There's some analysis that goes into it too. Like you got to put them in the right spot in the order, right spot in the field.
Of course. Jesse, who's leading off?
The Taco Bell Chihuahua. I think there's some speed there.
We know what we're doing here.
Yeah.
We're not stupid.
He has that dog in him, Derek.
He absolutely has that dog in him.
I don't know.
Jack in the Box in the 2-hole. Jack from Jack in the Box.
I think Mayor McCheese plays shortstop. He's got the leadership qualities.
He does have the leadership.
Sure.
I was going to have him as manager, but you're right. Yeah. Mayor McCheese is going to hit 9th, though. He's going to hit 9th for sure. In the
Perdomo.
Yeah, right. Of course. Basically, we're giving him all of the same
shortstop
attributes.
and hitting 9th. I get it.
Third, Fudgy the Whale from Carvel.
I have no idea what you're talking about.
Fudgy the Whale's a beast, Jesse. Fudgy the Whale? Oh, my God. And then the Burger King, the actual creepy-ass Burger King hitting 4th, hitting cleanup. Right?
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah,
all
Burger
right.
King got to be hitting cleanup.
What do we got? We got 4 more spots to fill.
Ronald McDonald, Jack in the Box, those do anything for you?
Yeah, no. I mean, Ronald McDonald has to be in there. I said Jack in the Box in the 2-hole. I have the Noid from Domino's coming up in the 5 spot because I'm going to flip the lineup around, right? But I know the Noid is an on-base machine, right? Ronald McDonald after him.
He feels like a center fielder.
He is a center fielder, but he's been struggling.
Agile.
Yeah, he's been struggling. You know, he's kind of like Lourdes a little bit. He's streaky. Of course, Colonel Sanders in the 7th hole, and then
veteran leadership.
Yeah, you gotta have that veteran leadership in there. And then I think I would be remiss to not bring in Bob's big boy. You know, the big boy.
Oh yeah,
beefy.
I mean, maybe he should be cleanup.
He should probably be cleanup.
Hitter.
I don't know though. Fudgy the Whale. Have you seen Fudgy the Whale? Come on.
What about the Little Caesars guy? Does he make it anywhere?
Oh, I don't.
Backup utility
infielder for sure.
A left-handed specialist reliever, maybe.
Yeah, for sure. I don't know how the Keebler Elves factor in. We're not doing cereal mascots
that's
or cookie
not, I don't
mascots.
think that's a fast
that's a
food
whole other
restaurant,
team.
Derek.
That's who they're playing. In fact.
Chuck E. Cheese.
Yeah.
Does he count?
Honestly, yeah, Chuck E. Cheese is who I would want to see throw out the first pitch. Going back to because Chuck E. Cheese is just creepy as hell. But Chuck E. Cheese is a real thing, right? So when we talk about like Chuck E. Cheese throwing out the first pitch, I don't want a dude in a suit like Grimace. I want them to wheel out one of the Chuck E. Cheese from the actual restaurant that used to play the animated, you know, the animatronic thing, right? That's who I want throwing out the pitch. Because, you know, with Five Guys at Freddy's, those things are creepy as shit now. So that's fun.
I think I just got a new really good one. We have to put him in for his defense.
Who?
The mitt from Arby's. I think that's the first baseman, right? He catches everything.
Yeah,
you just got to throw it in his general direction.
Christian Walker. He's our Christian Walker. All right. Well, we appreciate you guys and your questions. We appreciate Charles Woodall Pike, by the way, for being such a great individual and for providing us with such an amazing question. Big shout out to Zac Gallen and Shamrock Farms for the interview today. We appreciate it so much. We appreciate what they're doing for the community, and we appreciate each and every one of you for stopping by today. Of course, you can follow us on Twitter. I am at @cap_caveman with a K. This absolute maniac next to me is at Jesse N. Friedman. Of course, the people's producer, Damon, is at Damon Dog. That's DAWG. We are Damon's Dogs.
Why is Marv at the bottom of our screen?
Because we held the line today twice, Jesse.
Well, and hit the like. Hit the like. That's what HTL means. Hit the like.
Didn't Tori say hold the line?
Yeah, he did. Like 4 times.
What is happening? Did word get around? Why are all these Diamondbacks players and coaches saying hold the line randomly in interviews
There's
now?
a conspiracy with Damon, and I don't feel comfortable about
movement.
it. Yeah. Yeah. All right. Well, of course, again, our show. Wait, we didn't do the thing. Damon. He's a Damon Dog. That's DAWG. We are Damon's Dogs. Bark. And we hold the line, HTL. Of course, our show is at PHNX_D-backs, but all roads do lead to at PHNX_sports on Twitter Instagram, and Facebook. Shout out to Circle K for this beautiful studio that we are in, and shout out to all of you beautiful people for being Diamondbacks fans. We hope to see you guys tomorrow. We will have a post-game show after tomorrow's game. There is no game today, so we hope you guys enjoy the day off. Shout out to Tio Wildcat. Said, great show once again, guys. Thank you so much for your super chat. We appreciate you for being here, and we appreciate you all for your support and for you guys being here. Of course, we will see you tomorrow. In the meantime, have a wonderful evening, and remember, kids.
Wait.
What?
Super shot.
Oh, I already said it.
Oh,
I said it.
Wow.
Yeah, it's like he doesn't even. It's like he doesn't even listen to me. It's like he doesn't even listen to me.
It's another day.
Trust me. I have a wife and a child. I am used to people not listening to me. This is nothing new. But
well, Derek, we've missed a couple in the last few shows, and I was just self-conscious about it, and I wanted to make sure it got read for our good friend Tio Wildcat.
Yeah, shout out. Well, of course, you want to put a Tio. Do you want to talk about the Wildcats while you have his thing?
Big recruiting weekend this weekend. Brent Brennan, solid job.
Why did I do that?
All I know is that when Damon tells me stuff, I always listen very attentively and understand everything he says the first time and don't ask any clarifying questions.
Oh, you guys are the worst. You guys are the worst. But that's those guys, not you guys. You guys are the best. Thank you again for your time. We appreciate you. And remember, kids, baseball is fun, but it's so much more fun when you get to talk about it with Zac Gallen.
We all silly like the mayor.